Hello, beautiful people. My name is Carrie. I use tarot and oracle cards to bring you messages for your mundane and spiritual growth. Today, I have a message for you about coming into a conscious relationship with life, conscious relationship with the energies within you, and your connection and place within this world that we're living in. In short, awakening. Guiding our reading today, we have Taten the Sylph. She is all about bringing energy to our mind, energy to our thoughts. Her magic, kind of is a very stimulating kind of energy, and even more rarely when she feels, the person is ready for it. Not only a quickening of the mind, but an illumination of the mind. That awakening, that aha, that comes through, learning to consciously interact with and be part of life as, we are here. Okay, so Taten is very much a, fast-moving, very quick individual. Sometimes thoughts can be fleeting. So imagine my surprise when the first card I pulled is the Knight of Pentacles. Okay. Now, the Knight of Pentacles is the, the one step at a time card. In this case, though, I'm getting more of a focus on grounding. Bringing your higher experiences, the knowledge you have gained, the wisdom you have gained, into a grounded and practical, real expression in the world around you. Okay. Next up, I have the Magician. Now, the Magician is the individual who, through life experiences, through their own study, through practice, has come to a point where they have the skills, the knowledge, the ability to create their life for them. This is somebody who has come into a co-creative position in their reality, where they realize that they are the one who is creating their reality through whatever their focus, with their energy, their emotions, their thoughts, directing what they want to experience in their life. And this has come through strength. In this deck, the Strength card, the dragon here with this fae is representing her inner primal untamed nature, much in the same way that we humans, we might say that we have an animal side, the primal, force within herself. In the same way that, you have the Strength card in your Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the woman with the lion, she is very much at peace and ease within herself, within the force, the primal life force within herself. She has come to a conscious relationship with that. So that gives us a quick little kind of overview. Now let's look at the processes. Beginning in life, you might be the Knave of Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles in your conventional tarot decks. You have a simple enjoyment of life. You have the enjoyment of the sweetness of life, right? Everything is a new thing to explore, new ways to play, new things to try. You haven't, in this card yet, experienced difficulties that would change the way you look at things, that would change the way you experience things. This is that innocence, that freshness of the inner child that just is in love with life because it's just all so much to experience. Next up, we have the Eight of Cups. As life goes on and as you grow, sometimes you might find that you need to seek something outside of yourself. That joy that you experience, that bright, sunny energy, has probably cooled a little bit. It has gotten to a point, kind of a lukewarm feeling toward life. So you start seeking something else. You start seeking outside of yourself or possibly within yourself to rekindle that, to know what it is that you are here for, the why, right? You start questioning the why. But life goes on. We have to be grown-ups, and you start to fall asleep. The Four of Swords. You are no longer, paying attention to those things, those joys that you had in life when you were younger, because now you have to focus on other things. And we see this rose here in the garden that is wilting. That magic starts to dry up. Okay. And we just kind of become a little bit numb through life. We're, just kind of going through the motions. But eventually, the Tower. You have something in your life happen that shakes you out of your sleep, that shakes you out of the complacency that you have fallen into without, noticing. Kind of like how when you go to bed, you don't usually notice when you fall asleep, unless of course you have trained yourself to be able to pay attention to those types of things. But you gradually fell asleep, lost that sense of magic, but then something happens in your life that really shakes things up, that makes you have to go within yourself to find the resources. You've built a life for yourself that wasn't built on the reality of who you are at your core, of what you wanted from life, what you came in for. This situation has forced you to work with the energy of temperance, okay? The alchemical process, whether you've had to go to therapy to work through whatever emotions and experiences, or whatever the case being, you have had to work with your own thoughts, your own emotions, that inner world, in order to to find that diamond in the rough. In the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you would see an angel, and it would have this triangle with a square around it, showing that divinity is actually within you, that you yourself, by your nature, are in fact actually divine. And this is coming to the purpose that, yes, you had this tower experience, and it was to get you to do the work on yourself, right? To come to a conscious awareness of what is within you. Okay. And we come up to the Knight of Swords. You had to develop a certain measure of self-discipline and focus to really understand yourself, the clarity to sort through your inner world. And as you did, as you came to understand your inner world better, you get this new level of perception, represented by this crow head helmet that the fairy here is wearing. That could be psychic perception. That could just be knowledge and wisdom, your thoughts, the memories you have, things you've learned, right? Now, you've developed skills along the way in life. When you were the Knave of Pentacles, you probably had, a certain measure of creativity, in your enjoyment of life, but you never really took the time when you were that young to master something, to master whatever it is you were creating. You made that little clay pot or whatever it was in pottery class, and it was cute. Definitely not the work of a master artist, but it was special and it was heartfelt. But as you've grown, you developed these skills. You honed your focus. And as you've honed that focus, you come to the Eight of Pentacles. You decide that you're going to build something for yourself. You're going to create something new, right? you have the woman here. She's got this basket that she's weaving. She's developed this skill, right? She knows how to create this basket to, to hold her harvest, to hold whatever treasures that she's experienced in life. And you have these little mice here. And they're absolutely curious about what she's doing. You probably have people now who have kind of this curiosity about, like, how did you create the thing that you have for yourself now? And this all comes to a purpose, right? The thing that you created for yourself, because it comes from your heart, because it comes from this, kind of mastery. There is this awakening of the heart space within you. The Ace of Cups to me is always about the heart space. Whenever I get this in a reading, it's speaking of that outpouring of that nectar of life, right? You have come back to a point where you've realized that, the center, this heart, this emotional energy, this connection that we have to all life, you can have the sweetness of life without it being necessarily dependent on something external. So you've come to this awakening, like, I have the ability to create the life I want. I have the ability for, to create the joy I want, to direct my experiences. And when you get to that point, there's kind of we'll call it a call that comes out to you, right? We have the Judgment card. Looking at this fairy here with these angelic wings, surrounded by these lilies. You've gone through a death experience in order to reawaken to a higher purpose. Now with your gifts that you've come to realize within yourself, you've also come to realize that you need to use these things to serve others, to serve the bigger picture, right? You are part of the whole, and now because you have reached this level, you have this kind of responsibility that comes with it. And it's not a heavy responsibility in the sense of, like, drudgery that you would experience with, responsibilities that we have as an adult, because this is a higher calling. This is a divine calling that says, we need you to take what you have and share with others. We need you to awaken others. Now, of course, this doesn't mean in an egotistical way where you're going around and you're like, oh, I need to teach these people these things. I need to show people the light. You don't awaken other people through force. It's really about self-mastery. Okay, we have the Emperor here. Just like with this crow energy here, you have this same energy here on his shield. Now, it's not on a sword, so you're not out there, cutting, pointing, directing, telling people this is how you must be. Yes, the Emperor is definitely very good at delegating. You have good consideration of, what are people's strengths and weaknesses. You listen to people and understand their points of views before you make decisions. By coming into a position of leadership, you understand that it's not about, being the boss. It's about leading through your own example, through discernment and considering the larger good of the people that you are working with. You may be, literally some kind of boss in your regular day-to-day life, but hopefully with the experiences that you've had, you are a healthy kind of boss. Okay. Next up, we have the Chariot. Now, this Fae here, she's got these two griffins, which, they seem like they're kind of wanting to go their own way, not necessarily too keen on being harnessed. She does not have, she's not pulled off in one direction or another by them. That calm confidence says that she knows how to take the various experiences in life, whether you have something that you want to go one way or another experience in your life wants to pull you another way. She's got this focus, right? The death and rebirth energy that you've come out of, the chariot having come out of the city that, was destroyed by death. You have this confidence, this calm that allows you to move forward. Okay? This way of operating in life is the thing that actually helps others, right? In the story of, the swords in this deck, you have these two young girls who had this garden, these beautiful roses, and then they had this one special blue rose appear. And, they were taking care of it for a little bit, but they weren't able to successfully, care for it like it needed, because it was a very special and magical rose, and it wilted, right? So they go to the queen, and they ask her for help. She comes, and, she is able to revive the rose, but while she does so, she doesn't notice that the same energy and magic that she's pouring into the rose is also causing the rest of the garden to really, take off and overgrow. And the vines, at first, they're sneaking up around her, and she doesn't really notice until it's kind of a little bit too late. And this is where you're seeing other people, in life, they have this blue rose, something that they think is very special, very magical, that they're hanging on to, that they're devoting a lot of energy into, but they're not noticing that because they're directing their energy in this way, that other things in their life are not being tended correctly, that they are either becoming overgrown or starting to create a problem. So your very nature, this clarity, this crow energy, you pick that rose, you fly off with it. You create, not through, hey, I'm going to create this negative experience for you, but you kind of create this tower moment for other people just by being yourself, right? They see that this thing that they thought was so fantastic and special doesn't hold the value that they thought it did. Because you are this hanged fae, the hanged man. Now, we're not talking about the hanged man in the conventional sense of like being in suspension because they have a decision to make. Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do that? We're looking at this from the alternate point of view. You have a perspective that is different than others. You have a way of being, a playfulness with life, because you are not hung up and caught up in, the emotional ups and downs that others are experiencing, right? The Wheel of Fortune. You understand that, the ups and downs of life are just a natural fact. The seasons turn, you go from spring to summer to fall to winter. It's just a natural rhythm. And that all life is sustained and actually grows through these rhythms. You're not looking at the painful experiences as, something bad anymore. You just, it's part of life. So, you come to this King of Cups energy. If you look at the King of Cups in some other decks, you might see like waves crashing against, the ground and, at the base of their throne. That's the emotional, turmoil and, energies, very intense energies of life. And the king, he has come to a mastery to where, like, he's not overwhelmed by these emotions. He's stable. So, here with the King of Cups, he's got this deep contemplative kind of, connection to his emotions. Maybe not necessarily fully the most logical being. You may or may not be. He, though, tends to be more focused on happiness the emotional satisfaction and connectedness and richness than he is on, certain external things, on, ideas or things that others consider to be of value, that they consider to bring happiness. Okay? So you have found this happiness within yourself. This joy, this happiness that you had when you were young, when you were little, that you were just able to just simply enjoy the sweetness of life, it was not a conscious, kind of enjoyment of the sweetness of life. You were just in the moment. But life has taught you to be discerning. It has taught you to pay attention, to be aware of this sweetness of life, and to find it within yourself. And because you have come to be able to find this within yourself, the blessings that you have are of benefit to others. Speaking of benefit, I hope that this video was of benefit for you. If anything in this video resonated, I would absolutely love it if you would leave a comment, like the video. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Head in, look at my videos, find something that resonates with you, and I will see you in the next one.